The wheels of justice turn slowly, but they do turn. On Tuesday, when the January 6th committee kicked off its last hearing, a lot of people were mocking Attorney General Merrick Garland for being out of the country. He was actually in Ukraine investigating war crimes. But it turns out Garland's law enforcement agents were hard at work, because on Wednesday, the Justice Department moved in multiple states to gather evidence related to Donald Trump's fake elector scheme to steal the 2020 election. They dropped subpoenas on Republican operatives who worked on the plan in Michigan, Arizona, New Mexico, and Georgia, including David Schaefer, the chairman of the Georgia GOP, who also served as a phony Trump elector. And in Las Vegas, sources told the CBS News affiliate that FBI agents executed a search warrant against Michael McDonald, the chairman of the Nevada GOP. But it wasn't all on Thursday. Feds also searched the home of Jeffrey Clark, a Trump Justice Department lawyer who reportedly told the president that he'd use the DOJ to press Trump's false election claims if Trump would make him attorney general. All of this dovetails with the fifth hearing on Thursday. In previous hearings, we had already learned new details about Trump's pressure campaign against Vice President Mike Pence and his pressure campaign against state officials that led up to January 6th. But Thursday's hearing focused on Trump's pressure campaign against his own DOJ, as Trump pushed officials to publicly and falsely declare there was election fraud. And Trump almost went through with the plan to fire the acting attorney general and replace him with Jeffrey Clark, an underqualified ideologue who would do his bidding. But the hearings have also exposed tensions between the House panel and the DOJ. Prosecutors have complained that they need transcripts of the committee's interviews with more than 100 people. It's holding up its work otherwise. Committee Chairman Benny Thompson says federal officials can see everything his panel has, but not until hearings conclude in July. The DOJ has already sought a delay in one of its big January 6 trials against the Proud Boys until it gets those House documents. They're running parallel investigations with different aims. The House committee's goal is, in part, political: expose Trump's behavior to the American public in a way that ensures he never holds public office again. It's going after the planners, the organizers of January 6th, while the Justice Department's goal is exclusively legal: prosecute the people who carried out the plan and broke the law that day. So what are the odds they can both succeed? Joining me now is veteran political strategist and MSNBC political analyst Juanita Tolliver. Also here is Joe Walsh, former Republican congressman from Illinois, and Cynthia Alsky, former federal prosecutor and an MSNBC legal analyst. Cynthia, let's begin with you. The Justice Department investigation, day after January 6th committee, lays out Trump's fake electors plan. You have DOJ subpoenas and search warrants for GOP operatives in multiple states. You also have investigators searching the home of Jeffrey Clark. Where is all of this heading for the DOJ at this point? And have we all been too impatient with Merrick Garland? He's actually got a plan and it's working.
Well, I'm one of the people who's too impatient. I admit it. I think it should have happened sooner, but I couldn't be happier that it's happening now. Welcome, welcome, Merrick Garland. Let me say about this Clark subpoena, you do not send an assistant attorney general at the Department of Justice outside in his pajamas while you're searching his house and taking his devices unless you are serious, you have evidence against him, and you have evidence that you fear he will be destroying things. So I would say the Jeffrey Clark subpoena is a huge red flag that the Department of Justice investigation is picking up speed and force and fury. And were I somebody who knew something, I would be calling the Department of Justice right now and getting on the Department of Justice train before it's too late.
Yeah, that train looks like it's probably already left the station for some folks. Juanita, the committee is essentially making the Justice Department wait until all of the TV reveals, you know, the behind the curtain stuff are over, and before sharing some of the key evidence that they found. Is that worth it, or is that just going to feed into the growing right-wing conspiracy narrative that all of this is just nothing more than a show trial?
Completely disagree that it feeds into the right-wing conspiracies, but I will say, Michael, it's a little bit petty, right? Like, I'm thinking about, okay, the Select Committee is not releasing transcripts until next month. I'm thinking about the DOJ sending that very public second request for interview transcripts. I'm thinking about all of it in this dynamic when the goal is still the same: hold Trump and his co-conspirators accountable. And I think that's what we need to keep focusing on. I think that maybe one reason why the Select Committee is saying wait until next month is because they know that they get one shot at presenting their case to also not only the American public, but the DOJ. Because ultimately, this is going to come down to whatever criminal referrals or recommendations that they make. And so they're saying, hey, let us give it to you all in one big, beautiful binder so that you don't have to go looking for anything else and you won't have any other questions and you'll have every single thing that we have. Of course, in the meantime, DOJ is saying, hey, we've got secret grand juries going on that we might need to use this for. We've got prosecutions against Proud Boys that we might need to use this for. But I think ultimately the goals are the same. I wish they were more aligned. I wish this squabble wasn't happening in public because, again, Michael, it feels a little bit petty.
It does, just a little bit. But, Joe, we know petty on our side of the aisle, don't we? We've seen it up close and personal. And you, in fact, were actually rather direct. One thing I like about you, you don't mince your words. And you didn't do so the other day on Twitter, in which you said, quote, Twitter world may not understand this, but January 6th and these hearings won't make any difference in the midterms. The hearings are important and necessary, but they'll have zero impact this November. Unpack that for us, buddy. I mean, are there really people out there who are going to say, yeah, the insurrection was bad, and yeah, Republicans don't care about democracy, but hey, let me vote for Marco Rubio because inflation is at 8%?
Sadly, Michael, I think that's where most Republicans are. I don't think, look, these hearings are vital because they tell the story of a former president who orchestrated a coup. My God, if we can't tell that story, we've got no business telling any story. I don't think they'll have an impact in 22. I think minds, Republican and Democrat, are made up. My hope has always been that the outrageousness of this story will get independents and Democrats out to vote. Michael, you know Republicans are fired up to vote. We need to get Democrats and independents out. I hope they're paying attention and they'll come out. But again, the wild card here is the Justice Department. I hope they're pursuing what they need to be pursuing.
That's an interesting point. And Cynthia, to Joe's point about how people are looking at this, we have to talk about Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Now, the hearings on Tuesday revealed that his chief of staff texted Mike Pence's chief of staff saying Johnson wanted to hand the vice president the list of fake pro-Trump electors from Michigan and Wisconsin. But when a reporter tried to ask Johnson about it, here's what happened.
Did you know about what your chief of staff was doing with the alternate slates of electors? No, you're not. I can see your phone. I can see your screen.
This was a staff-to-staff exchange, and I was, basically unaware of it. And the chief of staff contacted the vice president's staff, said, "Do you want this?" They said no, and we didn't deliver it, and that's the end of the story.
He faked a phone call.
Yes, he did.
Hi.
He's a wimp.
Basically,
I can't answer your question
it.
right now because I'm on the phone.
Right. I'm like, dude, seriously? I mean, how much trouble does this present for Johnson and his staff right now?
Well, it depends on whether or not he is subpoenaed and has to testify under oath. I mean, he had a cockamamie story that some intern brought his chief of staff some paperwork. He has no idea what it was. And what they were going to do was, in the middle of this heated time in our country, they were just going to have that delivered to the vice president, and no one knew what it was. It's all just completely shocking to him. No one believes that. So what we know is, probably with some certainty, Ron Johnson is lying about it. Now, does he get subpoenaed? He should be subpoenaed. He should be subpoenaed. Will he be in the grand jury? Will he be in the hearings? We don't know the answer to that question yet. But if he is subpoenaed and lies, then he's got a big problem. Otherwise, it's more politics as usual. We'll see if he gets reelected.
So Juanita, picking up on that point, on the Ron Johnson story about, what he's telling his staff to do or what they didn't know, how does this all come into practice here when you look at this sort of unnamed House intern and all of that? This prompted a tweet from Monica Lewinsky. Quote, dude, don't blame the intern. You spent a lot of time on the Hill. Does this pass any form of political smell test? We know, as Cynthia points out, that there's some legal issues here. But when you've got Monica Lewinsky talking about interns, you just don't even want to go there.
Let's just shout out to Monica Lewinsky, right? Like, it's on the nose, but it's there's some truth to it. Don't blame the lowest person in your office for bringing you a slate of fake electors when your chief of staff picked it up as though you had no knowledge. Remember, Ron Johnson is the same guy who said this was a normal tourist visit. Ron Johnson is the same guy who said, oh, I'd be much more afraid if there were Black Lives Matter protesters, right? Like, this is the same guy who's been carrying Trump's water and working with him seemingly on the inside, trying to apply additional pressure to Pence. And so I think it definitely begs a subpoena, as Cynthia said. But I wonder how far Ron Johnson is going to go and try to continue to say that he's lying, right? Like, continue to say he didn't know anything about this. I don't buy that for 1 second. If anything, if I'm a leader in Michigan, I'm like, hey, why are you trying to throw out our electors? Why are you trying to steal an election through our votes, right? I do think that this begs more questions, and especially about what other Republicans were doing and saying. What were their staffs texting to the VP staff or other members of the White House? Because what we have heard from the Select Committee is that there's this list of Republicans who requested pardons because they know they did wrong. I think starting with that list, going through and figuring out what these other Republicans were up to. Were they doing similar things as what was happening in Ron Johnson's office? Were they doing similar things and behavior trying to pressure or even advance this coup attempt? I think we all need answers for all of that.
So Joe, you got the last word on this, and I want to pick up on that point about Ron Johnson. You've got him in the news. You got the panel saying Congressman Scott Perry and other Republican members sought pardons for their roles in the election lie. How many more of your former colleagues on the Republican side are we expecting to show some legal exposure, shall we say, before these hearings are done?
Michael, this is nuts. I served with Ron Johnson. I mean, my God, he's nuts. Here's the takeaway. This wasn't just Trump. I think there's a part of Trump that believes he won. I really do. I think Ron Johnson believes Trump won. I think Scott Perry believes Trump won. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene believes Trump won. I know Jim Jordan believes Trump won. We like to say that everybody around the former president knew it was all BS. A lot of these Republican members of Congress were as wacky as Trump was, and they believed it was a stolen election.